Hey guys, Stockaholics, appreciate you guys being here today. I'm going to talk once again about A2 milk today. Some of the things I'll be talking about in this video. Why I believe the management likes the Daigou channel. I'll be talking about some competition for A2 milk. I'll be talking about a recent study that was published about A2 and A2 milk. I'll be talking about some stuff I don't like. And I'll be speculating wildly. You know, sometimes it's very interesting to think about kind of how fickle an investor base or shareholders can be sometimes. Something that could have been a strength in the past can be a potential weakness in the present. So I wanted to kind of share this with you guys. I was kind of reading through a bunch of old stuff for A2 just to try and get my head around every little aspect in this company. And I found a couple of things that I wanted to kind of share with you guys. And I think I know why the management is so wrapped around the Daigou channel. They're so interested in it. So this is an old article from a couple years ago, and it's called "Competition Heats Up for the Controversial A2 Milk Company." I'll just read this brief excerpt. Several Australian exporters of infant formula, including Bellamy's Australia, it's a competitor to A2 milk. They make some A2 milk products as well. And Blackmores Ltd turned away from using Daigou in 2016, fearing a crackdown on China and gray market imports, and shifted to selling directly or via Chinese partners to distribute their products. But A2 stuck with the Daigou, and it paid off. While A2's revenues rose, those of Bellamy's and Blackmores tanked. Now, if you think about where we are today, some of the criticisms in A2, it's this very entity, this channel that has been was something that was kind of praised for them to be so embracing of in the past. I think, you know, COVID has really disrupted this channel, and I think we should assume that someday Chinese and the informal Daigou, I think, or at least I will assume, I think that someday that these things are going to resume. And, you know, it's really interesting to see just how fickle people can be on something from one day to the next. You know, the main reason the Daigou channel is in such disarray, in my opinion, is because of COVID. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to, or at least to when I'm thinking about it from the management's perspective, it doesn't make sense that they would suddenly abandon this channel during a COVID environment. It's, you know, maybe that the Daigou channel, maybe it won't come back. But what is probably the more likely scenario? You know, it's likely that at some point that it will. And so something that has been so instrumental to the building of their company, I think that they're probably making the right and the logical decision by continuing to back this channel. Okay, I know this is kind of a mess. This isn't pleasing to the eyeballs to look at the slide, but I think it's kind of valuable, so I'm trying to share it with you guys. This is A2 versus their competition, and this is on a Chinese website called JD.com. It's a pretty big, kind of like a e-commerce site where you can order all kinds of. It's basically like, one way to think of it might be like the Amazon in China kind of thing, right? Okay, so what I did is I kind of looked through all the kind of products of all the major competitors I could find for Chinese infant formula. Now, if you remember, the main thing that has been impacting A2 milk has been this infant formula base, this product that has just been being heavily affected through the Daigou channel in particular. But I kind of wanted to show you just from a brand perspective, some of the research I did on some of their competition, right? Okay, so first of all, we'll start with A2 milk. This is, oh, by the way, everything that I found here, all of these, there's a bunch of different listings for these different prices of these products. All of the ones that I'm listing here are the cheapest version of whatever provider there was on this site to provide these different products for all these different brands. Okay, first of all, you'll notice that A2 milk is they sell one of the major sizes they sell is 900 grams, and they sell it for 220 won. You'll notice down here the product review. First of all, 98%. If you compare that to some of the competitors, is very high. And you'll notice one of the things that I really took away from this is that if you look at how many reviews there are on this product, there's just an absolute insane amount of reviews. I compared this to, I went through this is the cheapest listing, right? First of all, that I'm showing you. I went through like all kinds of listings, the less expensive, and really like some of these just have millions and millions of reviews. Like there's a lot of Chinese people buying this product through JD.com. All right, but this is these two right here, Danone and Nestle. If you read through a lot of the articles that are kind of criticizing or making critical points of A2, they'll bring up Nestle and Danone as kind of the major competitors to A2. And if you kind of just look on JD, you may come to the conclusion that I think that this competition might be a little bit overblown. So Danone, first of all, they sell this thing here. It's called Aptamil. It's a census. They sell it in the same size, and you'll notice that it's a little bit more expensive than A2. Again, this is the cheapest version of this product that I could find on that website. But if you notice the amount of reviews that these have, it pales in comparison. This is a multi-conglomerate international company, right? There's not anywhere near the amount of people purchasing this product as there is this A2. And on top of that, this is a huge amount more of people than there are purchasing this. There's only, the reviews are higher. So there's 5,000 people who reviewed this product, and it's a lower overall rating compared to this. Now, if we look at Nestle, again, this is another one of those international conglomerates. They sell it in a slightly smaller size and for cheaper, but if you do the math on this, it is slightly cheaper to purchase the Nestle version of this product compared to A2. But if you look at this, they have almost no market penetration on this product, at least on this site. That might not be true everywhere, but what I've seen, they're selling almost, or based on the reviews. Okay, that might be an unfair assumption, but based on their reviews, there is way less reviews on this product, which leads me to assume that there's far less sales of this product. And on top of that, there is a lower valuation, lower product review percentage on this. And again, these are the two companies that everybody's like getting in a big fix about, Danone and Nestle. And you know, based on this research that I've done so far, I just don't see it. Now there is another company called Bellamy's, and they've been making A2 for a while. They sell it in a slightly smaller size, but you'll notice something here. The price of this, 348 won compared to A2's, there's not really a lot of competition here, because the pricing that these guys are available, or these guys can offer, I don't believe that it's really competitive, right? And you have to ask, is the quality of this product that much more higher than this one? I don't know. Maybe it's because they claim that it's all organic. Maybe A2 is not organic. I'm not sure. I'd actually, you know what? Maybe that is something I have to go look into. I don't know that A2 offers an organic version of this, but this is the only version of Bellamy's that I was able to find that offers A2. But they do have a lot of reviews, and they do have pretty high praise. But again, it's when I looked through some of the other versions of this product. That were not this is the cheapest price. But I was looking at some of the others, there was nowhere near as many reviews as there was on A2 on some of those other ones. And what I came to the conclusion is that there's not really pricing power in this brand compared to A2. But again, there might be something else that I'm missing there through the organic, so you can let me know. Oh, and one more thing I should also mention. It's very difficult for me to find competition for this in China. One of the things that I noticed a lot of people critiquing on this company is that they're saying that the competition in China is ramping up. I was not able to find any A2 milk infant formula products that are being distributed and made in China through some Chinese brand outside of these ones, if that makes sense. So if you have more knowledge on this, I would actually love to know about that. Let me know in the comments. One of the I think, and this is I could be wrong here. One of the things I think is that a lot of people think that competition in China is ramping up, but I don't know that it's coming from A2 milk. So I'm not sure. My gut is telling me that it's not. They're just saying milk in general when they're not thinking about A2 as a different product from normal milk, if that makes sense. But hey, you guys let me know if you guys do more research and you say, hey, this guy's a big idiot and I'm wrong. Let me know. Okay, so I know there's at least a sizable amount of you guys that are interested in the science aspect of the A2 story. Recently, the company announced it. Was this today, or it was either today or yesterday, that they announced the results of a study that they had funded. And again, this is kind of my issue with all of these kinds of studies that come out on this company. A lot of them are funded through the A2 company itself. But I get it, because if the company didn't fund those kinds of studies, then would these studies even exist? So there's two sides to that story. But anyway, I guess maybe I should clarify. For me, myself, the science is interesting. It could be very valuable for a long-term kind of aspect to it. But for me, what I'm really super concerned about is what the customers say. If the customers believe this stuff, if they, or maybe not, they don't even care about the science. Maybe the customers say that they can digest this stuff when they couldn't digest other products. That's to me, that's what's interesting. The scientific studies, yeah, they're interesting, but they're less interesting than what the customers have to say. But anyway, I'll read through this. New U.S. scientific studies suggest that A2 milk may cause fewer symptoms of lactose intolerance among American adults. One thing to consider is that A2 is beginning to penetrate the American market. This is the first study of its kind in the United States. Boulder, Colorado, April 12, 2021, from Globe Newswire. A new clinical study conducted by Indiana's Purdue University Meredith Professor of Nutrition Dennis Saviano indicates that some people who suffer stomach discomfort after drinking conventional milk may have significantly reduced symptoms if they consume milk that contains only the A2 beta casein protein type and is A1 beta casein protein free. The report, published in the European-based Nutrients Journal, also reported a significant difference between milk containing only A2 protein and no A1 protein compared to conventional milk with lower levels of A2 protein. This is the first study that has ever been conducted in the US where the scientists examined varying levels of A2 protein in the milk that was given to participants. Throughout the study, each person was given an individualized quantity of 4 types of milk calculated according to their body weight. A2 milk with only A2 protein, Jersey cow milk, 25%, which is A1 protein and 75% A2 protein, conventional milk, which is 75% A1 protein / 25% A2 protein, and lactose-free milk, which is 60% A1 protein with 40% A2 protein. Professor Saviano conducted a double-blind, randomized, crossed-over clinical trial, the global gold standard, to examine the effects that A1 and A2 proteins have on people who are confirmed lactose maldigesters or have been diagnosed with lactose intolerance. According to the U.S. National Digestive Diseases Information Clearinghouse, some 30 million to 50 million Americans report lactose intolerance symptoms, including up to 75% of African Americans and American Indians and 90% of Asian Americans. All right, so this is kind of something I don't like that I've seen in this company. One thing I would love to see to kind of confirm that I'm not a raving lunatic and that a lot of the things that I'm seeing are could be validated is to see insiders buying at the current share price levels that we're at. You know, if all of the things that I'm seeing are true, then why am I not seeing any insiders seeing what I'm seeing to buy? You know, so, and these are people that have more access to more information than I do. So if the insiders aren't buying here, you know, why aren't they buying? I'd also like to share these two guys right here. This was the last real insider action that I could see. It was by Peter Nathan and David Lovat-Hearn, and they sold collectively 1 million shares, which was a quarter of all of the total insider shares that there are. They sold these amounts right before there was that earnings downgrades that started last year. And since then, we haven't seen any insider selling. Or buying. Okay, so I mentioned why I understand why the management is so attached to the Daigou channel, but there is some things that I kind of don't like that I've noticed in some other people have pointed out why this is as a major criticism on why they do not want to buy yet and why they think that they should wait. And this is some more stuff I don't like. This is their outlook for fiscal year 21. So globally, there continues to be unprecedented levels of uncertainty and volatility due to COVID-19. The company remains confident in the underlying fundamentals of the business and will continue to invest behind the brand and its capability to drive long-term growth. However, the pace of recovery in the Daigou/reseller channel and the CBEC channel has been slower than previously anticipated, and the company now expects revenue to be at the lower end of the previous guidance range. So far, I don't have any problems. A lower EBITDA margin range is now expected due to lower revenue, higher brand investment, longer Daigou reseller support, movements in foreign currency, and adverse channel mix related to what was anticipated in December. Accordingly, the company's fiscal year 21 outlook is now as follows. Group revenue for fiscal year 21 in the order of 1.4 billion. Group EBITDA margin for fiscal year 21 of 24% to 26%, excluding MVM acquisition costs. And this is where we get to the problem. The outlook for fiscal year 21 assumes the actions being taken to reactivate the Daigou reseller channel delivers a significant improvement in quarter-on-quarter growth from the third quarter 21 to fourth quarter 21. That's kind of, I get it for a lot of investors, that's kind of a big assumption. You know, I don't know that this company has control of the Daigou channel. Again, this has a lot to do with COVID-19. And, you know, if there is unprecedented levels of uncertainty with COVID-19, how can you assume that any actions you take are going to reinvigorate a channel you probably don't have any control over because of these reasons and because of Australian lactose and because of the tensions between China and Australia and all of that. For me, I don't understand why we are assuming growth in this channel. And I think I kind of mentioned this in some of the other videos, is why this probably even this value exists in this company in the first place is because of this weird messaging. But I get it. I know why the company's attached to this channel. All right. I know I've shown you guys this a couple of times by now. To me, this is the most important thing for me on why I'm interested in this company and why I've begun to invest in this company. This is the revenue composition across the infant nutrition channels. And this is confirmed by some of the research that I've done on that site that I just showed a little bit in this video. Yeah. The main thing I'm looking at is these Chinese growth of these infant formulas. This is the China label in China, direct sales to China. I know I keep coming back to this, but I believe it's important. I want to reiterate and re-emphasize it. The majority of the share price depreciation we've seen is the result of infant formula sales decreases because of COVID and Daigou closures in Australia, New Zealand. But most of these customers are actually, I believe, Chinese customers. Now, the sales of China infant formula, if we're looking at only the China label, has for the past 3 years averaged 33% growth every half year. Every half year. Half year. Second half 18, we saw 7% growth. In first half 19, 67%. Second half 19, we saw 28% growth. First half 20, 55%. Second half 20, 30%. And first half 21, 11%. if we even assume that, maybe this is a big assumption to make, but if we assume that this growth, 33% growth, continues in this direct-to-sales channel, at what point does the narrative change from the Daigou channel is important to who cares about the Daigou channel when we're growing this direct-to-sales segment 33% every half year? Welcome to Future Scenarios Speculation with your host, Stockaholics. I'd like to remind you guys, this is not investment advice. This is just how I kind of see different scenarios in this company in my mind. Doesn't mean that they're right. It's just kind of how I see things, okay? And you guys can let me know in the comments if these scenarios don't make sense, or you can let me know which scenario is perhaps the most probable to you. Okay, so we'll start with how I see the ultra bear case in this company. So we'll assume for this scenario that A2 does not grow in China. All of those projections, all of those things doesn't matter. Let's say that the relationship between Australia and China, it worsens. There's more trade issues with them. Or let's say that the COVID situation doesn't improve. We'll say that this keeps Chinese out of AU, and as a result, that keeps the Daigou channels weak. We may also say that this is going to cause, when we're looking at that forward guidance, to be more bad forward guidance, which causes investors to be more spooked. So for me, in my mind, it's like, even if we're thinking about this worst ultra bear case scenario for the company, in my mind, I kind of have to think in my mind, you know, how much, even with all of this, how much further downside could there be? This is a profitable company, and it's growing penetration into other markets besides the one we're just talking about. We've seen recently that they're beginning to penetrate the American market, you know? It's like, and we're not even talking about a company with potential bankruptcy issues. This is an extremely cash flow positive company. So even in this ultra bear case scenario, you know, I gotta ask myself, at what point are value investors going to start to become interested in this company, you know? I'm not saying that there's not downside. I certainly believe that there is potential downside, but it's like, how much further downside could there be? And that's kind of how I see it in my mind. Now we'll talk about the bear case, which is a little more bullish than the ultra bear case. Chinese growth stays at last year's average of 20% growth. So if we looked at the first half's growth in, I'm talking about the infant formula sales. If we looked at this, we're talking about the Chinese channel, I think the first half was 30%, the second half was about 11%. So the way I came up with this 20% here is I averaged those two halves. Let's say that the Daigou channel stays totally closed and that there is more bad forward guidance. So we're just going to keep that in there. And even with all of these three scenarios, if we're just thinking about it from a earnings or a revenue perspective, we will reach the peak of 2020 revenue levels in about 3 to 4 halves. So in this bearish scenario, I'm still in my mind, I'm still assuming growth for the company that gets it to the level that it was in 2020 in about 1.5 to 2 years. That's the bear case in my mind. Okay, the average case, we'll assume that Chinese growth, it keeps infant formula, keeps that 33% growth metric. And for this scenario, I'm still going to assume that the Daigou channel is going to stay closed. We'll assume that more forward guidance isn't so negatively interpreted when people realize that the Chinese sales channel is beginning to replace the Daigou channel. Like that's for me, this is kind of how I see it, you know. One of what kind of makes me kind of bullish is because I think at some point, you know, when they see the numbers changing in direct to China sales, it's going to be hard to kind of care about, you know, this Daigou channel, yeah. So I think there's a potential for the narrative to change, and this is the average case, by the way. And in this scenario, we could reach 2020 revenue levels, the peak, in about a year to a year and a half. Now we're going to talk about more bullish scenarios. Let's assume that the Chinese growth continues to average 33% growth per half, and that the Daigou channel, it slowly resumes. So let's just say that we're going to say, okay, the vaccines are beginning to penetrate Australia, their government has become starting to realize, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to be locked down like we are, as much as we are, especially with all of these vaccines in place. Maybe we should begin to allow Chinese students, Chinese immigrants, Chinese visitors to come to our company. This is the bull case. And in this scenario, we're likely to reach 2020 revenue levels at their peak in about 2 halves or less. In the ultra bull case scenario, Chinese growth continues to average that 33% growth that we've seen over the last 3 years in infant formula sales per half. And the Daigou channel rapidly opens as the Australia is vaccinated and resumes former levels of Daigou activity. We reach a 2020 peak in revenue in 6 to 12 months. Now again, I would like to ask you guys, which scenario do you guys think is the most likely? And if it's none of these, let me know. Say, hey, this is, all of these scenarios are kind of bullish. You're not thinking about XYZ. Let me know.